Hello, so it's titled about the right-wing print press in the UK. They're part of the state superstructure, so they're just basically spewing out bullshit that they don't even believe in themselves. Most people who work there often don't even believe in the stuff they're putting out. If you went there, you would see probably lots of like people who are more metropolitan sort of thing, rather than the crap that they spew out. Now, this is common knowledge to them. Now, what are the deflection stuff to do in order to preserve the state superstructure or the vast power and inequality, stuff they're really bothered about, that really matters to them? You can tell that that's what really matters to them because there's never really been for anything progressive, have there? And it gives it away. They occasionally virtue signal as in a lying way about left-wing stuff. The thought, like, I once read the Mail Online saying we're against misogyny in all its forms. I think they're actually trying to claim absolute anti-sexism and all this, and I'm thinking, like, this is just what they're just saying, because normally that's not how they, you know what I mean? So anyway, they're not, the way to deflect for them, and they admit this when they retire, and the Sun, people from the Sun admit it and stuff like that. They build someone up who becomes a celeb, not bother whether they're a good person or a bad person. They're just building them up for their own sales. So they might be. So let's assume they're a good person, because often they will be. Often they will be. And they know exactly what they're going to do before they even started. Once they've got the profits in from building them up, they say, we know, come all the way back down by character assassinating them. And remember, this isn't based on whether they're a good person or a bad person. That's irrelevant to them. This is based on them being a celebrity. That's what they care about, because they can cash in on it. So that's one way that they deflect from what matters. Another way is a very simple way. Put stuff about babies, children, cute dogs, crossword sport, TV guides, innocent stuff that sort of like paints over the dreadful worldview they have of power and control and the propaganda matrix. Another way they deflect is this connects with the building the celeb up and then knocking them down. That's just deflection stuff. It's bad for the person who's picked on. But they've done worse scandals than that. They've like hacked murder victims' families' phones and stuff like that, and not reported on police corruption they know about in the Met back in the day and stuff. So there's and also of course there's the horrible propaganda matrix stuff that they do, the basic stuff on that, the emissions propaganda, the divide and rule, the agenda setting, the repetition, the herding into cages, the artificial partisan divide, the fake freedom of speech, the terms, the labels, the mantras that are the ingredients. See my propaganda matrix, the science of propaganda videos that I did for the general gist of what the news media do, and that includes, but it's not just about the right wing press that do that, but because they're all basically right wing. Because I'm on about the openly right wing press, the more openly right wing. Now, if you go to them videos, you'll see the gist of the billionaire-owned multinational national news media. But another thing that right-wing press do is I've said they build people up and knock them down. They also demand access to some celebrities that they really want to cash in on. Now, this isn't, most A-listers get I use the word A-list within a British context here. Most of them A-listers are not targeted, but there's some that really want. And if you give them access, they'll leave you alone. They'll give you a nice press. And if you don't, they'll destroy you. The character assassinate you, like with the building up and then bringing them back down thing. So that's really dodgy. I find that really, it's not, I mean, I can always say it's not the worst thing in the world because these people can stand up for themselves. True. But it's still pretty slimy, isn't it? So it's not the worst thing in the world, but it is a bad thing. It's not the worst thing they do, but it's a bad thing. Especially as it's all for themselves. It's not real. Yeah, so I think this is a brief video, not because there isn't a lot that you can slag them off on. It's just that basically, like I said, the propaganda matrix covers the substance. This is just a bit extra that I think is particularly on them and the openly right wing. But the other, the news media in general is right wing. Well, even if it uses the word left, the system left is very right wing because it's presiding over a huge state superstructure from where the top is billionaires and the bottom is people with nothing, just struggle for their whole lives. And they preside over that, so that's extremely right wing in my view. And then there's a lot of propagandizing to make it, which is artificial, and we shouldn't really bother listening to that. I mean, Caitlin Johnston, my favourite Aussie journalist, she's just written something. She's written an article called "On Her Notes from the Edge of the Narrative Matrix." Don't ignore politics, just ignore the fake kind is the title. I'll just read out the opening 2 paragraphs are about that, then she goes on to other things. She writes, a lot of people wrongly ignore all politics because they rightly perceive the system is rigged. The answer isn't to ignore all politics, it's to ignore the fake partisan puppet show and pay attention to the real political game taking place behind it. And I'm just going to read that much because she just says the same stuff as me, in her own words. The real stuff behind it is what I would call capitalism, the propaganda matrix linked to that, the military. So whereby Britain is an oligarchy. Billionaires own the politicians, billionaires own the news media, thus billionaires own the people. So the right wing, openly right wing news press is like, it's just got a flavour to it. It's a bit of a, whereas the rest of the news media's propaganda, it's just really pretty much the same because they're all bullshitting. You see, they're all bullshitting. They're all presiding over basically what is a right wing structure, and a lot of the drivel they put out there is just in order so that top bottom stays intact. And they do give themselves away at time when you look at when they are the most passionate, the most pleased about something, or them it tends to be on this stuff about preserving the top bottom. And the example I was giving in my previous video I did this morning, imagine you suddenly propose a wealth tax, 10% for tax on wealth over £500,000. Could you imagine the uproar? So that sort of thing gives it away. That's the state superstructure. That is, they don't want that disturbing. Yeah, like, it's disgraceful. It's not disgraceful that. Other social democracies have wealth taxes that are similar to that, and they're better off than we are health-wise for it, not because if they're taking the money off them, because they then redistribute it, give it to those who need it, and it's those who need it who can't afford just brutal capitalism where you just rightly bring in capitalism and markets, but then wrongly just leave it at that. You must do it for the nation to distribute the wealth and income around, so it swirls around the economy. That is crucial. So as I always say, I would let brands, Western brands, I would openly bring them into North Korea. That was North Korean president, they would have all these brands from the West would suddenly be in the idea about Marks and Spencers and Apple or whatever, HM3, whatever, you know what I mean? Just name a Western brand that comes to mind, McDonald's. And then I'd think, right, so now that's created wealth. Now we've got to redistribute it. Otherwise, we're just going to end up with a Victorian England, modern day sort of society. We don't want that. Yeah, so like it would be, I'm on the far, far left of social democracy. Definitely have to get rid of all power, excessive power, and all excessive wealth, and redistribute all of that. So anyway, you've got the gist of my video. So I'm going to leave it at that. Bye for now.